Last week we had again breakout groups and journaling opportunity, and we were sharing on the prompt how felt pain can, transform into care if we have that capacity, to be with the pain and not immediately project it somewhere else. It can really change us. And doing that together in community is very helpful. Because, feeling and sensing in the body and with the body is something we need to come back to whenever we notice that we are stuck in thinking about this and thinking about that in loops or in, certain patterns we already know. Because people in this modern world are generally more intellectual than intuitive. And we tend to relate to ideas, to words, to concepts about things, and no longer know how to be in direct relationship with the things themselves. In particular, with the modern human world, and it shows up in many, many ways. And one of the really big ways is the climate crisis. So the world tends to exist in our head or on our screens rather than what is right in front of us. And it's not like a blaming or anything, but this is just something to become conscious of and see, that our evolutionary path has taken us down a cul-de-sac. And we need to come back. We need to remember that actually the body is not just like a piece of flesh, we need to wash and feed and clothe, but the body is an organ of listening. The body is embedded in the biosphere and in constant exchange with it. And, I've said many times, what we can't sense or feel, we need to overthink. Patterns and loops, which keeps us stuck in the past, basically, because all of the conditioning of the mind is from the past. It's not just right now what's happening. And Sigmund Freud called that many years ago, over 100 years ago, called it repetition compulsion. And just becoming aware of that this is what's happening. Not because we have done something wrong, but because this is part and parcel, the drawbacks of the equipment we have got with those bodies and minds. And we can learn to retrain, to recondition or decondition. And the Buddhist teaching is one of the wisdom teachings which is very pragmatic with its instructions on meditation. And, if we are applying those instructions on meditation in order for it to really go somewhere, which means, really to go deep, we need to learn to tolerate the discomfort of, consciously being in the mess of the feeling and sensing inside of the body, but also inside of our lives. Because otherwise, we always have tendencies to polarize and project, and in small ways, but also in really big ways. In order to have some kind of a certainty, that's how it is, to serve us to be able to quiet down and to quiet our fears and the existential threats that come up if we don't know what comes next. If structures fall apart. And, I speak about this because I can see it happening in myself too. I'm not exempt from that faith. I'm not exempt from it. It's happening too. But I'm becoming more and more conscious, and sometimes just in hindsight, but nevertheless, we can apologize. We can try to repair. But it's really important to know that this knee-jerk reaction of polarization and projection is now, playing out in a very big way at these times of the elections. And I think at this time, and it's particularly important to hold on to some kind of teaching. And the Buddha Dhamma is also called the middle way or the middle path. That's a synonym for the Buddhist teaching. A middle way between two extremes. On the one hand, indulgence and really getting lost, in mind states or in what's called, greed, hatred, and delusion as the three categories of ignorance. And the other one is suppression and numbing. And the middle path is not a compromise between those two, but it's about, noticing when the mind tends to go in one direction and bringing it back to the middle. And in that sense, one of the central qualities of the Buddha Dhamma, which features, in quite a few of the central lists of the early Buddhist teaching, is called upekkha, which can be translated into several ways. And the synonym for upekkha, which is a longer word, is called tatra macha tata. Tatra macha tata. And if we translate that literally, it means there in the middleness. There in the middleness. So that's the quality, to cultivate, and that features in several lists. And I just, want to go over those. There are mainly three different ways how the word upekkha can be looked at. The first one is upekkha in the list of the 7 factors of awakening, the Bojjhanga, which I've been speaking about in the past. In that context, upekkha is translated as equipoise. And literally that means, I looked it up in the dictionary, equal distribution of weight. So if you're sitting in a kayak or in a boat, you go down a river, equal distribution of weight in relationship to our own mind. What comes up: fear, ill will, boredom, lust, joy, contentment, all those different qualities, and to have a equipoise in relationship to our own experience in the mind. And then the second way of looking at upekkha is within the list of the 4 Brahma Viharas, together with metta, loving kindness, compassion, karuna, gladness, mudita, and upekkha. And in that context, it's translated as equanimity, which literally means even-minded. And this is in relationship to the mind states of others, or in relationship to what's happening out there, beyond the skin. So equipoise and equanimity, both different expressions of upekkha. And then we also find it in the list of the 10 perfections, the paramita, sometimes also translated as the excellences. And in that context, we translate it as serenity, which means clear and calm. And, this word serenity was used in the past the distant past for titles of honor for aristocrats, for kings and queens and empresses and emperors, and also for popes. His Serene Highness or Her Serene Highness. So, hoping that those people would have a sense of equanimity, how they relate to others, because they had so much power. So it's about, developing capacity to stand in the face of uncertainty and having that faith, that life knows how to go on. And it does so, on this planet or as this planet since over 4 billion years. And, that's what I try to share here is, to listen into the self-regenerative intelligence of the planet, because, we are participants of it, and through our bodies, we have this direct line into the planet through eating, drinking, breathing. There's a direct connection there. And somehow, under all of the formal education we have received, we have forgotten this. But now, this evolutionary threshold where old patterns are dissolving and we don't really exactly know what's going to come next, it suddenly starts to become conscious that there is a whole aliveness all around us, and we are part of it, and we can actually consciously develop a relationship. And I think that's what's now emerging into awareness for us. And there's many different groups, who are working with this, and this is one of many here. So like a practice, for embracing descent together like earthworms. And with that, our fears of losing the comfort and the securities, promised by modernity, because the planet can't provide it for so many people. So this group, I see it as an incubator, just like the Earth Room itself, where I'm sitting inside of right now, an incubator for sitting together at this liminal edge of what is to come, and to learn, to meet our fears and try to, to develop a lighter touch with all of it. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I think that's a way to be with something we don't know what's going to be. A light touch is always a good idea, Sensing and feeling the need to know, but then embracing it as it's okay, to have that urge, but really it's not gonna help in supporting what needs to be born. And we don't know, we haven't seen it yet, because it's new. So it's as a midwifing, a hospicing of the old with care and kindness, and a midwifing of the new with care and kindness. So I think that's what I was, wanting to share today. And we can now shift to the meditation. And, as a connector between the sharing and the meditation, I'd like to again bring up Manari Ushigua, shaman from Ecuador, Amazonian Ecuador, who has a beautiful medicine song which is for me an embodiment of light touch. Gonna share this with you. And please, find a posture which works for you for about 40 minutes. And allowing the breath to take you into the body. Sensing the gravity of the earth body, keeping us where we are right now, hugging us in a way. And for a moment, maybe remembering, what brought you here today. And really consciously noticing that interest, that willingness to stand on the threshold or sit on the threshold of this transition we are all in together. Which seems to happen, again and again on the evolutionary trajectory of our species and the earth as a being. That's just how this works. And now we are in the middle of such a bottleneck, and it feels scary and perplexing, and it's just unprecedented for us. As there's a new level of self-understanding of the species becoming wider available, emerging into consciousness of more of us. The myth of separation, just one more layer falling away through the climate crisis, really makes it conscious, pushes it into consciousness. A separation which is part of the way how we educate ourselves since hundreds of years, with the separation of mind and matter. And all of the sciences which have been established on that assumption. And they have brought a lot of good results, but they also have a huge shadow. And now that shadow becomes conscious. And there is more and more willingness to change. So sensing that willingness in oneself as a light touch. And I'm going to share Manari Ushigua from Ecuador to impart his beautiful medicine song, Ikaro, they are called in the language of those regions. Gracie, can you hear the breathing? Thank you.
Yêu naka baya chai ni si nawang minyokan chi cao say ta su maka paska chi Kabaya Chayawan Chayama Kihaw Nomon Doi Din Sumata Kayma Chay Ma Okumoy Re 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 re
So thank you, Manari, Ushigua, for the Ikaro. As a medicine for attunement. That our bodies and the body of the planet are made from the same stuff. And the planet is a living being, a living system of tremendous complexity. And we are inside of it. As the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh so beautifully called that interbeing. And this is the information, which is becoming conscious to us now because of the hardships, of the climate crisis. It pushes something into consciousness, which has been buried, has been lost. And that is actually a really good thing. But it had to become pretty intense before this process is taking place, before there's enough pressure. Sensing the aliveness in the body, which through these, medicine songs and different other rituals, we can find, skillful ways to calm that aliveness down, to broaden it, and to develop a relationship with it. Through sensing and feeling. And through, developing that faith, the trust that this aliveness knows how to stay alive. It knows what to do. And becoming a student of that aliveness, a servant of that aliveness at this time where the thinking mind is so tied up in itself. And we cannot trust it as a guide. It can only be a support for this different way of knowing. More intuitive, more holistic way of knowing, which is not going through concepts and language. And that's why, what we try to cultivate together on those Earthworm Wednesdays. So the light touch, the gentleness of the medicine song, bringing that into the body. As a information about how to relate to the biosphere. And trusting, that this attunement which we are practicing together in those sessions, it's going to change us from the inside out. On this vibrational level. And we already, we have such practices in Buddhism. For example, the 4 Brahma Viharas, the radiation of loving kindness, of metta, karuna, compassion, gladness, mudita, and upekkha, equanimity and equipoise. And the quality of upekkha is sometimes compared with the love of a grandmother who has seen so many things, or the coolness of the full moon. So sensing into that quality of being in relationship. It's a metta, loving kindness, is like the basic Brahma Vihara, foundational Brahma Vihara, which then through being with the pain and being with the ups and downs of life, that metta is transformed into upekkha. And it's one of the 7 factors of awakening, as one of the 10 paramita, or 6 paramita, depending which school of Buddhism. As an expression of wisdom and compassion together. So maybe you can sense in your heart area the quality of upekkha, that mature love, how that feels. And breathing into that Upeka, and if it helps, you can put maybe your hand on your heart a little bit. And, with the in-breath, really sensing, tasting it. And with the out-breath, allowing it to spread out throughout the body. And allowing it to radiate out gently in front. And then to one side. Behind. The other side. Above and below. I'm sitting in this orb of Upeka. Sensing the aliveness, the vibrancy. And knowing that our ancestors, go back hundred thousands of years, and they have been standing on those thresholds again and again, just as we are now standing on one. A different species, Homo, and also, our own species, which is just about 200,000 years old. How, this embodiment as a human being, how that was passed down over a long, long time, studying 2.5 million years ago about. How much hardship, how much not knowing. And how much, creativity and excellence at the same time. They go together. And allowing all of this to be present, making space for the messiness of this process. And now, let an image arise in your mind of the most steady and loving being you can imagine. Somebody, who is alive right now, or someone who lived in the past, someone you know or you don't, or it can be an archetype. Just somebody who embodies for you the steadiness and the wisdom of upekkha, equanimity, equipoise, evenness of mind. Just see what comes up. Does not need to be a human being. And really taking in how they care from a place of strength and love, because they have seen it all. And, let them show you what is possible. They smile at you and you smile back. Gentle smile. And these same qualities live within you. That's why you can recognize and visualize them. And taking in that mirroring, which is coming to you, and receive and fill your body and your mind and your heart with that mirroring. And then they reach into their pocket or into their robe or whatever they wear, into their fur, and pull out a special gift for you. A clear symbol for what you need to stay steady, loving, and strong. And they place it into your hands. And you can open it now Or if it's not clear, hold it to the light. A clear symbol of just what you need to keep your heart steady and your mind clear. And take that in. And then, gesture of gratitude, maybe a bow or some way of thanking. And they respond saying, we are here with you and can be called upon at any time to steady your heart and to be like them. And then you can really feel they're inside you, all of the ancestors. They're all inside of us. And all, around us. Embodying that steadiness and that love in the midst of all of the challenges. Out of our love for future generations to have a place to land. So, feeling that you also have that courage, that clarity when the mind is settled. It is there. And, that we have each other to support each other by having the same aspirations to serve this transition with the gifts which we bring, with the skills which we have in many, many different ways, contributing to this transition. And this is our practice. This is our path. And it's in the middle of the messiness of life, because that's how it can be lived. So, taking that gift into your being. Now we are shortly coming to the end. So Taking a few deep breaths and really landing again in the body, sensing the weight, grounding, where the body meets the cushion, the chair, the hardness of earth element. Which, forms our bones and teeth and nails and hair, earth element internally, and earth elements externally are exactly the same earth element. Earth element is empty of a self.